Keir Starmer won one of the largest political majorities in modern British politics, yet less than 2 years later, even some Labour voters are asking the question, should he go? I'm not interested in saying something ridiculous just for attention. A better use of our time is discussing the question, is Keir Starmer the problem, or is he simply the face of a much deeper issue in British politics? Let's discuss. One of the unusual things about Keir Starmer's unpopularity is that both sides dislike him for completely opposite reasons. For many in the left, Starmer represents caution, where they wanted transformation. They wanted a Labour government that was bold on public services, welfare, investments, foreign policy, and tackling societal inequality. Instead, they see a government that is essentially managerial, too scared to truly shake up the system, inadvertently endorsing or extending upon Thatcherite neoliberal doctrine, which is pro-corporate, pro-global, pro-elite. The criticism from the right is different. They argue that Starmer lacks authority to tackle issues on immigration, national identity, crime, tax. He's either too cautious or too unwilling to tackle these issues because he doesn't truly know what he believes in. This raises an interesting situation because on face value, they look completely unrelated. They both dislike Starmer for different reasons. Both narratives can't be right. And in fact, I think both are wrong.
Governing is a marathon, not a sprint. Oh, bloody hell. So many cows. The biggest defence of the Starmer government is not that he's inspirational, it's that the job is structurally miserable. Alright, we've arrived at the park. If I can do a muscle up, you have to subscribe. Why is there a spider? I guess I'm accepting the spider. Let's be honest, when was the last time there was a popular budget, a popular government, or anything popular in British politics? The economy is tight, public services are under immense pressure, people want change, and yet the state has to move slowly and cautiously to avoid collapse. No one is happy. But look at the positives of what Labour's done. 5 million extra NHS appointments, free breakfast clubs, Renters' Rights Act, highest growth in the G7, lifting 500,000 children out of poverty. This would have never happened under the Tories, and this certainly would not happen under Reform. If the Tories were still in charge, the Rwanda scheme would still be in place. And if Reform win, kicking out retired migrants and lowering the minimum wage will not fundamentally improve the state of this country.
So, does Labour need a new driver or a new map? Well, maybe it just needs some good music. Tony Blair has recently argued that the government's failures lie not in personality or marketing failures. Instead, something more sincere, a lack of plan. The Westminster environment has been a bit of a pressure cooker, and instead of planning for the long term, politicians focus on what suits them now. But as a result, Britain lacks a plan to lead it into the future. Very Blair-esque phrasing, I must say. I must admit, this argument at first caught me a bit off guard, because in quite casual, shallow conversation, I would often lament at the Labour Party's failure to really market and communicate its successes. But his essay got me thinking, what if he's right? Like, do we truly believe that a change of leadership will really improve this country? Truly change things for the better? I mean, really think about it. Whether Burnham became leader and nationalised water, or whether Farage came and went on a Trump-light, uneconomic tirade, would things truly improve in this country? Of course not. And in the meantime, he's right to point out that there is a technological revolution happening around us. None of us know the end point. I'm not trying to look like the people in 1950 who predicted flying cars in 2020. That's not the point. But we all know for certain that life will fundamentally change. Yet AI is curiously missing and is absent from national policy and direction. There is no relevant British ChatGPT. On the foreign policy front, Blair's point is also poignant. Britain has radicalised over the past 2 decades, and in amongst that pushing and pulling, our standing in the world has been destroyed. As he writes, Britain has become wary of America because of President Trump, out of Europe because we think it's inconsistent with national sovereignty, considering China as an enemy state, nervous allies of the Gulf states because they're not democracies, and not much interested in the developing world because they're poor and potentially liable to immigrate. To have a voice in the world, you need to be sat at the table and you need to bring something, military-wise, economic-wise, or otherwise soft power-wise. Britain is bringing none of that, and frankly, doesn't seem interested in building it. The world is changing, becoming more fragmented and polarised, and if Britain is not moving up, it's moving down in global standings. Albeit, I don't agree with everything Blair says, it's clear that Britain needs a strong, identifiable and unapologetic foreign policy strategy. Otherwise, it will only keep losing on the global stage. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't agree with everything in the article, but when a successful politician speaks, you listen.
So, should Starmer leave? Starmer is imperfect. Do I think that he broke the ministerial code in the Mandelson scandal? No. Do I think that switching leaders would physically and noticeably improve the material conditions in the country? Also no. Do I think that Britain needs technical, unapologetic governance that isn't fickle to public opinion? Yes. The truth is, as much as it's romanticised amongst some people in politics, switching leaders doesn't automatically change the course or improve things for the country. Unfortunately, in Westminster and in democracy, one thing is consistent and one thing rules all. Electoral pressure talks loudly. And if Starmer can't convince his colleagues that he can win a general election, the horizon looks pretty dark. Unfortunately. Like and subscribe, guys. See ya.